Hey folks, this is the one and only Warwolf howling at you from the old place we call YouTube, and we're here to talk about something we always talk about on a Wednesday night, Dynamite. Although this is less Dynamite and more, um, Puffamite, I guess, because the show actually was pretty decent tonight, I thought, but the ending was kind of garbage. But, I mean, who knows? We might actually get something turned around between now and Double or Nothing on May 28th. So, let's talk about the show, because we got a good amount here to talk about. So, we have the show starting with Jungle Boy coming out. And Jungle Boy is, getting a lot of good responses from the crowds at this point. I'm very, very curious to see where they're going to go with him, particularly because after what we just saw happen, tonight, I don't know what the hell's actually going to happen. So, here comes Sammy Guevara, and he gets ready to cut a promo, and then we get Darby Allin. So we got all three of the major challengers to MJF, who of course is the fourth pillar himself. And speaking of the champ, now I didn't bother with a screen cab for him this week because honestly, this is probably the best outfit we're going to see him in a while. This is from like last week or the week before, I forget which. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting little bit there. So we got this announced, which was basically the Four Pillars tournament. And basically they decided, well, we're going to see which one of these guys is going to get a bye by literally pulling a name out of a hat. Turned out to be Darby Allin. So that gave us Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, and I will like this, but I'm going to say it right now. I like that they're kind of starting to call him Jungle Jack. I mean, it sounds weird because it sounds like Jungle Jim, but, odd references to my childhood aside, when I used to see things that were actually called jungle gyms and playgrounds, let's be honest, Jungle Boy Jack Perry is kind of a mouthful, and Jungle Jack kind of works. So either way, we got Jack Perry versus Sammy Guevara. Sammy or, Jack is set to face Darby Allin after that, which would be the following week. And then after that, at some point, the winner of that match would go on to Double or Nothing on May the 28th. So at this point, we basically have the entire situation set for what's going to happen in regards to, the whole, situation for what's going to happen there. Now, I've been predicting for a while, in fact, that they were going to do one of potentially three things. One, I thought they were going to do a fatal four-way match, because it did feel like the best way to do this, because you had literally the top three guys right now in the company who are homegrown talent, to some extent at any rate. They are definitely charter members of AEW. You have Sammy, you have Jack Perry, and you have Darby Allin, and then you have MJF, who's another one of the earliest members of AEW. And again, very much a charter member, very much one of the so-called four pillars. I thought it was going to be either that or a gauntlet match, or that they were going to go straight up Jungle Boy Jack Perry versus MJF, because he really does seem to be the one that MJF was focused on through most of this. And he kind of still is, but we'll get to that when we get to the end of the night. So next, let's talk about some of the stuff that we had here in the promo. Jungle Boy and Sammy just kind of, going off on each other. Even to a lesser extent, Darby getting in a couple of shots. The ones that I really thought were interesting, we have like Darby basically saying that he thinks that Jericho is holding Sammy Guevara back, saying he's not a champion, he's a follower. But then he goes on to point out that when he doesn't follow other people, he tends to get things done, and even points out the fact that the man is a multi-time former TNT champion. And that's going to be kind of significant tonight as well. So we'll get back to that. So then we get Jungle Boy getting in some shots at both of these guys, and then we get, Sammy finally getting to get the mic. And again, he's not holding anything back either. And this was kind of a moment that I was like, holy crap, where he literally, he looks at Jungle Boy and says that he thinks he's just like MJF because Jungle Boy was apparently one of the earliest guys signed into AEW who was basically a charter member that wasn't coming from another of the major promotions, i.e. World Wrestling Entertainment or Impact, or even at the time, Ring of Honor, which was still theoretically, one of the bigger promotions out there in the U.S., if nowhere else. So, very interesting back and forth there. Of course, obviously, then we got MJF coming out, announcing the tournament. So, that's kind of an interesting point here. So, that's kind of interesting. So, next we get to Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter taking on the Outcasts. And we get this beautiful brawl right before the bell. There's this moment where Jamie Hayter picks up, Tony Storm and Ruby Soho in a double suplex, which usually when you hear the term double suplex, you're usually thinking two people picking one person up for the suplex. This time it was one person picking up two people. It's in many ways a lot more impressive. It's just kind of confusing when both moves are literally known by the same name. So what are you going to do? Couple of things. First off, this was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I don't know if I think they actually are in a situation where Baker is straight up from Pittsburgh. So she's the hometown girl, which, it's still weird to see her being treated as the face. I get that they turned her face a while back, but at the same time, I'm still not entirely used to hearing cheers for Britt Baker. Because when I started watching AEW, it was during the Jacksonville era, down in Jacksonville, Florida, down in God, I can't even remember the name of the place right now. But which, I mean, please somebody remind me what the name was of the arena, because they were using it for a better part of a year. Either way, like, she was a heel from pretty much the word go, and, like, everybody was rooting to see her lose, or once she got a championship, for her to lose it, and ultimately, she did lose it to Thunder Rosa, who, of course, was eventually in a situation where she was so badly injured she had to relinquish the title. But, we got some great, great moments here, including a Panama Sunrise. This is shades of Adam Cole, whom she is in a relationship with, so I like that. And she got the win with the lockjaw, which kind of looks like a mixture of the STF with a variation of the mandible claw. That's I don't really know how else to describe that. I'm not really going to bother looking through like the screenshots I've got. I've actually got one of the lockjaw, but it just seems really, really. You know what? Screw it. I will do it. So give me just a moment here. I'm going to bring up the lockjaw, and, just take a look at this. I mean, I don't really know how else to put it. Like I said, it feels like it is a mixture of an STF and, well, the mandible claw. I mean, I caught her just as she's in the middle of putting the move on, but that should give you a general idea of what exactly we're looking at here. So, yeah, I mean, just deal with that as you will, I guess. And again, hometown win for the hometown girl. And, it was pretty interesting. So congrats to that. We also had apparently Baker's family in the arena, which was nice, I guess, for that. Or, well, it was going to get a little bit more horrific later on, but we'll get to that as we go. So then we get an interview backstage with Wardlow, who it turns out is also a hometown boy for Pittsburgh. And guys, I mean, I gotta say this was a moment where I was having a holy crap moment. Look in the background here. Arn Anderson is back. Arn Anderson is back. Now, I have not seen Arn in the company for months. months. What am I saying? I haven't seen him for years. Like, literally, we haven't seen him since before Cody left. He vanished a while back. Now, his son is working in AEW. I believe he's working on either Dark or Dark Elevation. I really need to start watching those on YouTube. But, you know, what can I say? I'm an idiot. I keep forgetting to do that. But yeah, I mean, we do know that Brock Anderson is, in fact, in AEW. And I kind of lost track of where Arn was. I thought maybe he had finally decided it was time to retire or something. Apparently not the case. And I'm not exactly sure, you know, what prompted this. He was saying, I mean, Wardlow was saying something about QT Marshall having a horseman in his corner. And that is because, yeah, at one point, QT Marshall and Arn Anderson were allied. In fact, I keep hearing that they're apparently related. I don't know if that's storyline or real life. Sometimes you need a scorecard to figure out who's related to who in the wrestling industry. But, you know, call it what it is. I mean, it was pretty damn impressive. And, of course, the TNT Championship. Look at that belt. That is just gorgeous. You know, honestly, this is the second design for the TNT belt. The first one was retired, and it was given to -1, the son of Brody Lee. So, you know, either way, very, very impressive there. But what's more impressive is what actually ended up happening. We got a great match, and we got a win. Wardlow is now a 3-time TNT champion. And holy crap, that's a big win for the hometown boy. And it's also very interesting because we then got a very big surprise. You know, I've been saying this for a while, and I'm glad that they listened to me on this. I really am. And what am I talking about? Well, give me just a moment here, because I want to bring this up, and I don't want to, you know, ruin the surprise here. But so long story short, we got a new challenger for Wardlow, and it looks like it's going to be Luchasaurus. Christian Cage has basically been running the role of the mentor. Now, he has stated that he wants to win a championship in AEW in 2023. I suspect he wants to use Luchasaurus as a kind of proxy for that whole situation. But maybe Christian is saying he himself is going to make the challenge. I don't know. But Christian Cage is back, and we've got Luchasaurus once again back in action as well. And I'm not sure what I think about that whole headset and shoulder pauldron that they've got on Luchasaurus, but okay, whatever. Then we get the Elite, and I'm sorry, this is just hilarious. Like, I've got to say this. This isn't, well, even so much hilarious, this is just kind of impressive. Yes, that is Akira Toriyama on Kenny Omega's shirt. Now, for anybody who's not aware, Kenny is a big-time fan of anime and manga and video games, and, like, he's got at least 2 moves that are named after, like, straight-out video game, you know, material. First, we have he literally at one point was using something called the Hadoken, which probably was a double palm strike. I've never seen it used myself outside of the card game, which was called SRG Super Show, which is a phenomenal, card game in and of itself. And I do recommend, if you can get a hold of that, to grab it. It's basically, a wrestling-based card game. I haven't seen one of those since WWE had done one years ago. And I don't know. I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of that one, but I'll give it this. This new one's kind of fun. I haven't played it in a while, but it does have a Facebook group. But yeah, I mean, the other thing that Kenny is known for when it comes to video game-based named moves is his primary finisher is called the One-Winged Angel, or just the One-Winged Angel. And yes, that is a reference to Final Fantasy VII, more specifically to the character of Sephiroth. So, yeah. So the Elite are back. They call out the Blackpool Combat Club. And it kind of looks like that the BCC are going more classic heel, where they're like backstage and they're just going to run their mouths. But Danielson is the one who does that. And the other members of the BCC come out and basically ambush the Elite. Then we eventually get Danielson coming out, and here's where things got, I thought, a little interesting. So, I predicted the other day that Don Callis might potentially be getting set up to turn on the Elite and join the Blackpool Combat Club. I'm going to go on a limb and say right now, for the moment, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But I will admit, I was very surprised by what did happen. So we get Don Callis coming down to the ring with a steel chair. Now remember, Kenny Omega regards Callis' family. He even flat out says that he's his uncle. He considers the Elite to be not just his best friends, but also family as well. Callis comes down to the ring. Now remember, he was put in the hospital by the Blackpool Combat Club. He's got a chair. He drops it, runs into the back, and it's like, oh wow, did he really just turn on them, or was this just a moment of cowardice? No, surprisingly enough, he went back and got help. He ended up getting Konosuke Takeshita and got him to come to the ring and help out the Elite. Now, this was an interesting move, and I want to remind everybody, Konosuke Takeshita has straight up said in the past, right on AEW, that he regarded Bryan Danielson as his hero. This was when basically MJF tried to, put out a hit on Danielson going into, their world title match. And it was really, really interesting to hear him say that, and then basically to come down and help the Elite against the BCC, including Danielson being out there. So, I mean, they had a little bit of a face-off there. And I'm very curious to see whether or not this means that he's going to join the Elite, or if there's going to be something going on here where Danielson's going to try to manipulate him, because they've had a great couple of matches already. And there's obviously, a situation where originally there was respect, but now, Danielson is a heel, and right now the Blackpool Combat Club is going, well, we're the only true professionals in professional wrestling. But either way, it was a good thing that Konosuke did agree to help, because, they were going to take that screwdriver and use it against Omega. Now, we've seen that already a couple of times. Hangman Adam Page has not come back yet, but I think we're going to see him in another week or two. So I think we're going to see potentially either a 4v4 or even a 5v4, maybe even a 5v5 for the Blackpool Combat Club and the Elite at some point in the near future. Assuming that we don't end up having it be some kind of a crazy thing where it's just like Omega, the Elite's leader, then you got, the Young Bucks who are the Elite's enforcers, and then you got basically the comic relief minions in the form of Brandon Cutler and Michael Nakazawa, who, to be fair, can still wrestle. They're still legitimately good wrestlers. Possibly teaming up with them, plus Adam Page, plus Konosuke Takeshita. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. But either way, so far I was right now proven wrong about Don Callis for the moment. I'm still suggesting it is possible that he might turn and that it might happen sooner rather than later. But for the moment, if that is the plan, they're really good at keeping it under wraps. So, we already talked about, the TNT title match, but I want to bring this up. Wardlow is now a 3-time TNT champion. So that's really significant. And I wonder if that's going to play into some kind of a potential match between Sammy and Wardlow at some point, because now both of them are tied for championship reigns as the TNT champion. I believe Cody Rhodes is also a 3-time TNT champion. So we got like 3 of these individuals who've held the title 3 times. Now, Cody's off in WWE, although I'm hearing rumors he might already be thinking about leaving. I'm not surprised. A lot of the talent was very upset with WrestleMania 39 this year. Cody Rhodes obviously had to be very annoyed by the whole situation, that they gave him all this build, and then they said, well, we want you to lose. Now, presumably the idea was they wanted him to lose, so this way, we'll let Roman get his 1,000th day as champion, and then we'll let him win the title at SummerSlam. The problem is SummerSlam is a lesser show, and WrestleMania is supposed to be the biggest show on WWE's calendar. So where would he go? I would assume he would potentially go back to AEW, but how many bridges did he burn when he left in the first place? Remember, he helped to build the company. And he was an executive VP alongside the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, I do believe. So he left like a top executive position to go back to WWE, only for that to not work out. You gotta wonder, is there some kind of resentment that would be present in AEW's locker room and presumably the executive higher-ups? Because again, he was part of the executives as well as part of the locker room. So we'll have to wait and see how that is all going to happen. So then we get probably the weirdest moment of the night. I'm not even really sure how to describe what I just saw tonight with this. Basically, Sammy was getting interviewed by Renee Paquette. Now, that's the former... I honestly do not remember what she was being called in the WWE, and that's going to drive me up the wall. But if somebody can remind me of that, because I know that she was there at the time, and one of the big things was that she was brought into the feud going on between Jon Moxley and somebody else. I forget who it was at the time, but. So then we got this rather weird moment where MJF shows up and he literally says, hey, I'm going to offer you a massive, massive opportunity. I'm going to make sure you get to the main event, and all you got to do when you get to the main event is lay down for me, and I'm going to cut you a blank check. And apparently Guevara filled it in. And it was perhaps a very significant amount, because even MJF kind of balked at it. And one of the things that MJF likes to brag about is how much money he's got. And in that regard, he kind of almost reminds me of the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. But, I mean, you can see it right there in Guevara's hand. That is the check. So apparently he decided to take the money. So I'm not exactly sure how much MJF is worth storyline-wise, but obviously, Sammy has some idea of what it is that he's worth, and he's like, okay, I want this much. And I guess it was enough. Now, here's the thing. That was one of the weirder moments, and it was pretty crazy. To even see that. But it happened. So next we get Commander versus Jay White. And we are now told that the Bullet Club, theoretically itself, is not joining, but rather an offshoot is joining AEW, calling itself Bullet Club Gold. Now, I don't know if this is supposed to be like the top guys in the Bullet Club, or if this is just, them branching out into a franchise or something. I don't know. This was a great match. Jay White, great entertainer, great, athlete as well. I found out apparently he's a Grand Slammer over in New Japan Pro Wrestling, meaning he has held every singles championship that he can qualify for, which is pretty much all of them. I believe he's... I've got to double check this, but I think he's also held the IWGP World Tag Team titles. Or the Tag Team Championships. I forget what they even call that. But the equivalent of the World Tag Team Championships, whatever you want to call them. So again, the fact that he's a Grand Slammer, that's pretty impressive. He's also, I think, the only man ever to do it. So that means he's held the World title, the Intercontinental Championship, the U.S. title, I believe... They called it the Never Openweight Championship, and I think also the like I said, I believe also the tag team titles. I'm not sure what other championships there are. Those are the big ones that come off that I remember hearing about. If there's another championship or two that I've missed, please don't hold it against me. I don't really watch as much New Japan as I probably should, and even when I do, a lot of it is off their YouTube channel, and it's not always in English, so I don't always know every championship that they're talking about, or if they're even talking about a championship at all. So there you go. Commander, I got to tell you, I love this guy already. I want to see him with a championship, whether it's in AEW or elsewhere. And in fact, we're getting, I believe, Commander versus Vikingo this coming weekend. I'll get to that before we wrap up for the night. Commander, again, the dude is hilarious at the same time as being awesome. He literally did this spot where he was literally, like, jumping from the top rope to let his feet land on the middle rope and then jump back up to the top rope. And I don't mean on the turnbuckle. I mean, he was on the ropes doing this. And it was absolutely awesome to watch. It was strange as well, but, you know, it was cool. But then we get another moment where we see just how incredible this man's talent really is when we find out that this guy isn't just agile in terms of, like, you know, jumping from, like, one set of ropes to another. But he was even able to do this moment where he walked the ropes from the far side of the ring, from where he was, jumped across the turnbuckles, and then jumped to another set of ropes, and then jumped off those ropes onto his opponent, Jay White. Now, I do not know how to make GIFs, however you pronounce it. I don't know how to make them. Even if I did, I'm really not going to mess with that because, you know, I'm barely able to do what I'm able to do with the video editing right here in OBS Studio. But long story short, yeah, again, I want to see this guy with a championship at some point. He's challenging for the AAA Mega Championship on Rampage against Vikingo, and that's going to be Saturday. It's a special time that they're running this, Saturday at 10 rather than Friday at 10. So, I'll be honest, I really want to see this guy with a championship. I really do. I want to see this man hold championship gold because holy crap, he's awesome and he deserves it. So the other thing I found kind of interesting was that Shawn Spears was kind of in the crowd. Now, for those of you who remember him as the Perfect 10, Ty Dillinger, where he would sometimes do like that whole thing where he'd hold up like both hands splayed out as like showing that he's like the Perfect 10. He was also sometimes doing stuff with scorecards apparently, and he was doing that again here, and even he had to give that whole moment a perfect 10 when Commander did that jump, because like, I'll give him all the credit in the world. That was quite honestly a great moment, a literal perfect 10. You know, I mean, you know, like I said, let's just call it what it is. It was the perfect 10, and when I say that, I'm not being hyperbolic. I mean, that is quite literally how he scored it. The perfect 10. Now, after this match, he ended up basically giving a 5 to Jay White, who did win the match, which was pretty damned impressive either way. The move that he used is called the Blade Runner as a finisher. It looked like a modified flatliner to me. But, I don't know. Does it look like that to anybody else? Because it looks like that to me, but take that as you will. Um, Bullet Club Gold ends up attacking Shawn Spears when he holds up a 5 for the win. And we get Ricky Starks running in to make the save. So that's kind of interesting. We then cut to a backstage interview where FTR is being interviewed. They find out Mark Briscoe was apparently attacked. They go rushing off to the medical trainers to see, what's going on and whether or not, he's okay to wrestle, because apparently he was supposed to have a match or something tonight, but maybe it was supposed to be something for, later on Rampage. I don't know. But he apparently was not going to be cleared. And I guess that was supposed to be for another weird match, possibly for another 8-man tag. So somehow we get FTR teaming up with Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett sometime in the very near future as part of an 8-man tag match. I'm not sure what that whole thing's all about. Anyway, then we get Chris Jericho facing off with Adam Cole, and these two, this was a good cross between, generations. We got a moment where Cole is saying, hey, I grew up idolizing you. I've got a ton of respect for you. Jericho offers him a handshake. And it seemed like we were going to get a moment where, Jericho was going to say, well, I think you're getting a little too full of yourself, but I still have respect for you. No, it goes completely the opposite way. Jericho's really playing up the heel role and is going to I have no respect for you at all. I think you're, overhyped. I think you're arrogant. And we get, basically Adam Cole firing back going, you know what? I want you to look in the mirror and tell me who the real Chris Jericho is. Is he the guy who lets the JAS win all his matches for him, or is he one of the greatest of all time? I think he's an insecure little punk, and I can beat him. Well, as you might expect, the JAS actually gets involved, and they attack him. It was basically a 2-on-1 attack. Daniel Garcia and Jericho double teaming Adam Cole. Out comes Britt Baker, which I thought was interesting. Now, again, for those people who were not aware of this and may have only learned about it through AEW All Access, some people might have as a result of this, or if they had learned about it during AEW Dynamite, she and Adam Cole are dating. They are in a relationship. I don't know if they're engaged or if they're just... I think they're living together. At least that's the impression I tend to get. They're certainly on the road together. So they are in a relationship in that regard. And this just got crazy when the Outcasts, that's Ruby Soho, Tony Storm, and Saraya, came up from under the ring. I don't know where the hell they were and how long they've been under there. That was weird. Particularly because they already left the arena earlier. Because, like I said, they had lost the match against Baker and Jamie Hayter. So Baker comes out to try to help her man, and the Outcasts straight up attack her, and we get, Cole gets shackled to the bottom rope. And it looks like Jericho's going to take a kendo stick, which I believe is also officially known as a Bokuto. Bakuto? B-O-K-U-T-O. I don't know how to pronounce it. But it is not a straight-up Bakken. That's a different, apparently, thing, but it's also related to kendo. But it looks like, Cole is going to get wailed on by Jericho, and Cole's like, hey, do it. He gives the kendo stick to Saraya and forces Cole to watch while Baker just gets worked over. Now, both Cole and Baker's parents are in the arena. And obviously, like, they're aware of what's going on in wrestling, but even from that perspective, even knowing that this is all storyline, I mean, for at least Britt's parents, I mean, that's still got to be horrific watching their daughter get worked over with a kendo stick. Yes, it's all part of the show, and yes, you know, this is probably going to lead to Adam Cole and Britt Baker and possibly Jamie Hayter and maybe somebody else who already has a beef against the JAS, taking on the JAS and one or more members of the Outcasts. But dear God, that had to have been absolutely just the hardest thing to watch for them. So, yeah. Next, we get a quick, not quick, but not particularly long match. We get another 3 members of the Jericho Appreciation Society. This time it's Daddy Magic Matt Menard, Cool Hand Angelo Parker, and Jake Hager, taking on the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn, a.k.a. Daddy Ass. So there was a stipulation apparently in place for this match that I had not heard about because it wasn't really brought up, I don't think, on Rampage. If it was, I missed it. But long story short, the stipulation was if the JAS won, then the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass were going to have to join the JAS at least up until Double or Nothing. This was a relatively quick match, a lot of, good tag team wrestling. Granted, this was a trios thing, so it's 6-man tag. But we've kind of come to expect a lot of good material out of the Acclaimed, and especially out of Parker and Menard, which, again, I wish they would do something better than the whole thing that they're doing now. But for now, at least it keeps them on TV and keeps them relevant, I guess. The Acclaimed went off the mic drop, and that's pretty much that match. Now, the problem was this literally brought us to very, very close to the end of the night, bringing us to the main event. So this brings us to that first match in the 4 Pillars bracket, and it's Sammy Guevara versus Jungle Boy Jack Perry. And oh my God, this match was beautiful as much as it was brutal. I mean, you see this is early in the match, and in fact, a lot of the early match was fought on the outside. So this match, the referee kind of gave this some leeway. I don't know why they did this the way they did this, because this literally only gave them about 10, 15 minutes for a match. But I loved the way these two worked off of each other. Now, Guevara may think that Jungle Boy was kind of given his spot somewhat of on a silver platter or something, because that was the impression I got from the earlier promo tonight. But it's very clear that he knows the man can wrestle. And it seemed like these two were just going back and forth, back and forth. You know, they were trading blows, even on the apron, including this incredible moment where basically Sammy hit this gorgeous move, this Spanish fly to the outside. Give me just a minute, and I'll try and bring it up for you. And again, I mean, this was a gorgeous moment. And I, for one, I mean, again, these are my own screenshots, so it's like there's going to be some blur, there's going to be some, issues with them, because again, I'm just doing screen caps off my computer. But long story short, we had some great interplay here, and then they just kind of blew it at the end. Now, what do I mean by blew it at the end? Well, it honestly looked like we were going to get a Jungle Boy victory. And one of the things that they were discussing at the start of the match, I think before the match officially started, in fact, is the reason why Sammy was offered that blank check was because MJF really doesn't want to face Jungle Boy. Apparently the answer is an astounding yes. Because MJF gets involved when basically, the match ends up going to a point where Jungle Boy pretty much almost knocks himself out when he lands from the outside of the ring to I don't know if it was a timekeeper's table or something. It was one of the tables around ringside. He very nearly beat the count. Sammy distracts the referee, literally grabbing onto him, so that MJF can show up, whack him with the Dynamite Diamond Ring. Yes, he still has that. In fact, he's the only one who's ever had that. And then the referee, for whatever bizarre reason, instead of restarting the count, just finishes the count. He was at 8 when Jack very nearly made it back in. So, yeah, whatever. Great main event, bullshit ending. That's the only way I can think of to put this. And, that overall was AEW Dynamite, but again, I wouldn't call that so much Dynamite as I would call that kind of a crappy ending to what was otherwise a great match. Now, this means we're going to have Sammy Guevara versus Darby Allin next week. And then after that, I do think we're going to see either one of two things. Either we're going to see MJF try to get involved again, only to have Jungle Boy stop him, or we're going to end up where, he's going to succeed, and we're going to end up getting, Sammy versus MJF, only to find out that even though the check has been cashed, MJF is going to get double-crossed, and Sammy's just going to beat the living hell out of him and try to legitimately take the title from him at Double or Nothing. But we'll have to wait and see how that all works out. So, that was Dynamite. I thought it was a good show for the most part. I liked that they brought back, TNT Championship Gold to Wardlow because, Powerhouse isn't bad, but I still don't understand the purpose of his alliance with QT Marshall, and I don't think it really helped him at all. So, that aside, I think the guy's going to be a champion again at some point in the near future. I just don't think it's going to be with QT Marshall, or at least I hope it won't, because I don't really know what he brings to the table for the guy. Anyway, so we then have potentially another setup here for the main event of Double or Nothing. Now, we could still see Jungle Boy Jack Perry be reinserted into this. Now, remember, next week is literally the last week of April, which means they still have 4 weeks to build to Double or Nothing. We could see something happen. We could see Tony Khan decide, you know what, screw it, since, you got involved in this whole tournament and completely rigged it in your favor and then paid off the winner to just lay down for you. I'm going to make it a fatal 4-way, or maybe it's going to be, Jungle Boy versus MJF, because again, he's the one that they really seem to be focusing on here with this. I don't know. But we've got a few weeks. We'll see what happens. But the one thing I am very happy about is that we do not have Jungle Boy versus Christian and Luchasaurus yet again. That looks like those two are going towards the TNT belt. I just don't know whether or not Christian wants to be the champion himself, or if he wants to be the manager of the champion, and then basically say, well, this is my title, and then to have Luchasaurus look at him and go, yeah, no, it's around my waist. I'm the champion. We'll have to wait and see what happens. It's going to be very interesting one way or another. So, either way, that is our situation for Dynamite this week. We've got Rampage coming up, a special time, Saturday 10/9 Central, presumably something like 7 Pacific. So, yeah, I'll do my review as best as I can for the show then. If you liked this video, please give me a like, hit subscribe, ring that notification bell. Tell your friends, spread the word. Because believe me, it's going to help when I'm dealing with all this stuff for, the YouTube algorithm. Because let me tell you something. If you thought it was crazy what happened to Britt Baker, the YouTube algorithm likes to beat the hell out of all of us with a kendo stick. So, folks, this is Warwolf howling out at you. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the review. And I'm going to try to do some kind of review before the end of Verve. Now, that actually is a streaming service that is coming to an end on, I believe they said it's May the 8th. At which point, everybody who was on Verve is, I guess, getting switched over to Crunchyroll. I already have a Crunchyroll account, so there you go. But talk to you later. Bye.